something that will change our relationships. Fake it till you make it. David Myers has done a lot of important work in this area of positive psychology, and what he showed was that very often, even if we act happy, even if we act with high self-esteem, even if I act joyful, as William James said, that affects our mood. The question now becomes, what about permission to be human? Well, first of all, there are times when we don't want to fake it till we make it. We want to cry, we want to be miserable, and we want to act that way. However, we need to find when is it the time to get out and to go to that party, even if it's the last thing in the world that I want to do. And the difference here is about active acceptance. I can still accept my emotions, I can still accept my pain and experience it, and still choose to act in accordance with how I deem most appropriate or most helpful. So I can accept the fact, I was just dumped, say, by my girlfriend. I can accept the fact that I feel terrible about it and awful, but then 3 days later, go out to Noakes and party. Go wild. So, faking it, again, because of the facial feedback hypothesis, because of the body feedback hypothesis, because of self-perception theory, the behavior will affect my attitude. And after a crazy night out in Noakes, I will actually feel better. And healthy, well, maybe not, but better. Here's a quick video of Marva Collins talking about some of her experiences.
I think what made me what I am is my parents and a consistency. I mean, I wanted to be as successful as my parents and my grandparents. In those days, it was quite rare to be black and to be successful. So I think the determination of my parents and grandparents, we would get chastised, as I say, I'm 14 years older than my one sister. But if we walked in church and didn't hold our heads up, my mom would say, "What's wrong with you today? Walking with your head all down." She would scream down the street, "Get your head up," on my way to school. People, I've often heard the comment to her, "I can always tell your child on the playground." We were brought up with a great sense of pride.
Get your head up, walk up straight. When you watch Marva Collins, that's how she walks. That's how she carries herself, and that communicates a message to her students, to other people, to herself. I'm going to jump to this point. So very often behavioral change is gradual. So what is the acute change? The acute change is about coping. It's about putting ourselves on the line. And when we cope, the important thing, it's to take the risk. It's to do something that we don't feel comfortable doing. In other words, it's about exiting our comfort zone and entering our stretch zone. Now, what I want to do now is share with you two stories from my past. Two stories that initially will seem unconnected, but as you will understand soon, are very much connected. One a difficult story, the other a difficult story. My first memory. Now, most people have a first memory. The first time when the first thing that you remember. My first memory is from September 1973. I was almost 3 years old, and it was Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. And I remember being at home, and suddenly the phone rings. Now, the phone, my parents, Orthodox, I was raised Orthodox, the phone never rings on Shabbat, on a Saturday, let alone on Yom Kippur, but the phone rings. Both my parents, I remember them jump up and run to the phone. My dad picks it up, and I'm standing between my parents. He looks at my mom and says something, whispering. Couldn't hear what it was, but my mom's face changes. And there is terror, fear in her eyes. And I begin to tear. And my dad picks me up and says, I'm going for a few days, but I'll be back. Now I know what happened. So what happened was that my parents got a call from my uncle, who at that time was doing his reserves in the military. He's in intelligence, and war had just broke out. Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year in Israel. The Israeli military is, most of the people are not on the borders, not protecting. It was a complete surprise. 5 Arab armies launched a war against Israel. My dad puts me down, goes to his room. From the top of the, I still see him taking out his army uniform, putting it on, taking his M16 submachine gun, putting it on, putting on his shoes, tying them, and my mom all the while with him, making him things. They're talking, once in a while smiling at me, but I sense a tension there. I don't know why. We then walk down to my dad's car, had a old turquoise Ford Cortina. He takes shoe polish and paints the lights off the car. Why? Again, later I know, because at night, when you drive with your lights on, you don't want the light to be too bright in case of an air raid. So he paints the lights, and I watch him do all that. And then he picks me up and hugs me and says once again, I'll be back in a few days. Gets into his car, and I begin to sob uncontrollably. One of our neighbors, his name is Shalom, he's too old to go into the army, so he's standing there. We all look at my dad going off in the car, picks me up, and I'm crying. And he looks at me and says, Tal, do you want to be a soldier like Abba, like your dad, when you grow up? And I say, yes, I do. Well, soldiers don't cry. And I stopped crying. And I didn't cry for almost 20 years after that. And then I came to Harvard, and I started to study psychology. You know where I'm going, right? And I started to study psychology, and studying psychology, I realized that one of the things that I wanted to work on, one of the most important things that I wanted to work on, was getting in touch with my feminine side. You know, in Jung's language, yin and the yang, the anima and animus. I wanted to be more in touch with my feminine side because I knew that it wasn't healthy to repress emotions. I was repressing painful emotions. The exact same thing happened with positive emotions, same emotional channels. But I grew up in a culture that's very macho. Men don't cry. We're soldiers. We're tough. We can handle anything. And that's the culture that I grew up in. And again, this was my first memory. I heard the same thing over and over and over again. The same message. It's not cool. It's not manly to show emotions. Reminds me, after losing one of the most important squash tournaments for me, losing the national championships after I'd won it the year before. Surprise, wasn't supposed to lose it, was supposed to win. I go to my house with my girlfriend after, and we're just hanging out, and suddenly she begins to cry. And I say to her, why are you crying? And she said, I'm crying because you're not crying. Because she understood how important it was for me. And this is how I basically experienced my childhood, teenage, being tough, being macho. And then I came here and I understood I need to let go. I need to be more in touch with the feminine side. So this is story number one. let me move on to story number 2. One of the students that I had here, some of you may know her, class of 04, was Lindsay Hyde. Lindsay Hyde studied with me. We had one-on-one tutorial as well. We worked a lot together. Lindsay Hyde is the founder of Strong Women, Strong Girls. Wonderful organization, part of PBHA. She founded it, now a national organization. I was also one of the founding board member of that organization. Wonderful stuff. swsg.org for those of you interested. And I was invited by Lindsay to give a talk for Strong Women, Strong Girls, for the mentors who were Harvard students, as well as students from women from other colleges around Boston. And I gave a talk, and here is Lindsay. Here she is with one of the students, third grade students, whom she mentors, and other Harvard students mentor, and do wonderful work. And I believe in this organization. I support it from the get-go almost. And I gave a talk, and the talk was about teaching the importance of role modeling, was about integrity, talked to them about Marvel Collins, and about the important work that they were doing. And at the end of the talk, which went well, I think for myself, for the participants, I got a present, a gift, a token of appreciation, and the present was a shirt. It wasn't any shirt, it was a pink shirt, a color I don't normally wear, certainly never wore it in Israel. Not only was it a pink shirt, it was, since it was a Strong Women, Strong Girls shirt, it was also a very small shirt, more suited for the third graders than for older ones, but still they said, we want you to have it as a token of our appreciation. And then I made a mistake, and I said, jokingly of course, I was teaching 1504 at the time, I said jokingly, I will wear the shirt to class, and laughed. And here it is, the shirt that I got. And then there was another student of mine from 1504, Tori Martin, who ran the organization at that time, took over from Lindsay at Harvard. And Tori Martin said, I'm going to hold you to it. And I laughed and then almost cried. Because what do you mean hold me to it? I mean, I was joking. She said, look, you just talked to us about the importance of integrity, which I did. I mean, look here, integrity, it's even on behind. I did. I said, that's right, I did. So what, am I going to go back on my word? It's one of my core values, integrity. And then my whole childhood flashed before my eyes, and I thought about something that Churchill said, which was, find opportunity in difficulty. So I looked for the opportunity, and here was an opportunity handed to me in a pink shirt to be more in touch with my feminine side. So ladies and gentlemen, Spring Fashion 2008. Now, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but believe me when I say that this for me was going out of my comfort zone. In fact, maybe it was going out of my stress zone a little bit, but into my panic zone. I was telling the TFs before class that when I prepare for this class, and I have all my notes, here, and I write. Every time I went over it, or when I initially wrote it on my notes, there was an adrenaline rush in my stomach, going out of my comfort zone. Now, I'm also out of my comfort zone, which is why I had to have it at the end of the class, as opposed to the beginning of class. But the key is to attain optimum levels of discomfort. I may have overshot a little bit, but the key is optimum levels of discomfort. And why? There is no other way to change. I can think about it all day long and say, I want to be in touch with my feminine side, or I want to be more courageous. I want to get up. I can think about it all day long. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen unless we bring about real, actual behavioral change. Real, actual behavioral action. And when we do that, then the sky's the limit. Thank you. I will see you on Thursday.